Yeah, this is a trans rights rally at what they call Pride Square in Sydney now. There's a lot of it's the same sort of it's kind of the similar group. You see a lot of these other things, and I'd say it's the one of the socialist groups. A lot of kids handing out these red flags. There's the standard the bike that you see at each one. There's Jenny Leong at the top there, greens for Newtown. You see her at every one. So yeah, let's go and have a look, see what's happening.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, kick the bigots out the door. 5, 6, 7, 8, no right to discriminate. 1, 2, 3, 4. Kick the bigots out the door. 5, 6, 7, 8, no right to discriminate. 1, 2, 3, 4. Kick the bigots out the door. 5, 6, 7, 8, no right to discriminate. 1, 2, 3, 4. Kick the bigots out the door. 5, 6, 7, 8, no right to discriminate. 1, 2, 3, 4. Kick the bigots out the door. 5, 6, 7, 8. No right to discriminate. That's exactly what we're here to do today, to take a stand in defense of trans rights, to say that we won't give 1 inch to the homophobic, transphobic, bigoted logic of the far right who are rising to power around the world. Trump in the US and his vile administration of transphobes and bigots, but also his copycats here in Australia, people like the Christopherly Liberal government in Queensland who think they can get away with kicking down on the most vulnerable people in society, with attacking the rights of trans kids to life-saving medical care, to the right to be themselves, but also people like Clive Palmer and his trumpet of patriots who are spending millions of dollars making a fool of themselves in the media at the moment, putting out transphobic logic, getting endorsements from the likes of Tucker Carlson, the Fox News self-tanning disaster, and doyen of the far right around the world, trying to import these disgusting politics here to Australia. But they do not have the majority on their side. Masses of people in the US, in Australia, are strongly in support of trans rights, strongly in support of LGBT rights, and we want to turn that sentiment into an active force that can push the far right back out of the political landscape in this country. So thanks so much for being here today. My name's Eddie. I'm going to be chairing the rally. I'm a member of Community Action for Rainbow Rights. I got involved pushing back on the Liberals' attempts to give religious institutions more rights to discriminate, and those fights continue to go on to this day. It's still legal in New South Wales for religious schools to sack staff and expel students for being gay and trans. And now we have a whole new fight on our hands against the Trumpian right. Before we kick off, I want to acknowledge that we're having this rally on stolen Indigenous land. This is the land of the Gadigal people. It was never ceded, and when we stand up for LGBT rights and against bigotry in the far right, we are standing in solidarity with Indigenous people and their struggle against oppression and bigotry in this country. Always was and always will be Aboriginal land. But without further ado, I want to get stuck into our excellent list of speakers today. The first person we're going to hear from is Jenny Leong, the Greens member for Newtown. Jenny has been, a stalwart of fights against the far right and to stand up for LGBT rights for a long time, so we're very lucky to get to hear from her.
Women that are part of that movement until we see justice for First Nations people in this country. I would like to say that one of the things that we know is inevitable whenever we enter into the land of federal elections is that all of a sudden we will see white men in suits getting all tough on border control. And yet at the same time we'll see those same cis white men in suits also trying to import right-wing, bigoted, homophobic, transphobic views from other parts of the world, indeed onto the shores of Australia. They simultaneously want to be tough on border control while bringing in the most horrific, bigoted, transphobic, homophobic views into the Australian domestic political landscape. Well, can I just say that I think we should open our borders to refugees and we should close it to the right-wing bigoted views of Trump and the likes of those global fascists and homophobes and transphobes that exist in the world. And we know that the best way that we can do that is by building a community of collective action that demonstrates that the kind of actions that are being supported by the likes of, being spouted by the likes of Trump are not going to fly here. We need to make it very, very clear that we are not interested in importing this disgusting transphobic behaviour from other countries here in Australia. That said, we also know that there are sadly not a shortage of transphobes in this here country. We also know that there is sadly not a shortage of conservative right-wing bigots in this country. And sadly, they seem to have one thing in common, which is they tend to also be billionaires that have too much fucking money and don't know what to do with it, and so they decide to punch down and attack some of the most vulnerable people in our community. It is not a coincidence that the likes of Elon Musk and the likes of Clive Palmer both think that they have these views that need to be shared with the world, while at the same time as hurting young, vulnerable trans community members, while at the same time as doing Nazi salutes at public meetings, while at the same time as pretending to care about communities in the cost of living crisis, while at the same time trying to decimate our public services. We need to make it very, very clear in the coming months that when it comes to the federal election here in Australia, that we have no interest in Dutton, but we also have no interest in the idea of a completely silent and complicit Labor Party. Because actually silence is complicity, and whether we are talking about transphobia, whether we are talking about being tough on border control, whether we are talking about the ongoing genocide in Gaza, whether we are talking about homophobia and stopping access of young people to absolutely life-saving medical health care, then anything other than full opposition to those kind of views is a form of complicity. And we do not want complicity in the face of transphobia, in the face of fascism, in the face of right-wing conservatism. What we want is people that will stand up and speak out and recognise that the community is not interested in leaders that do not lead. That we are not interested in leaders that are more concerned about protecting their own power and their own position and their own status than they are about looking after the most vulnerable people in our community. And that is why Community Action Against Rainbow Rights, organising these protests in Pride Square, and the absolutely amazing trans advocacy and non-binary advocacy groups that are out there fighting the good fight need to be backed in consistently through this federal election campaign, because we know that they like to punch people that are already vulnerable. We know that they are so weak in their absolute moral bankruptcy that the best way that they can try and feel strong and tough is to hurt the people that are most at risk. And we must not let them do that. And the best way that we can do that is come together, whether it be in groups like this today, in massive rallies that we've seen, in the millions that have been on the streets around the world in support of justice, of human rights, and of love and equality, that we say that together we reject their hate, we reject their vile, and the only thing that we will be stopping at the border in Australia is the bigoted, transphobic behaviour of Donald Trump. I'm Jaden Hall, the Greens member for Newtown. Thanks so much for being here today.
We will fight, we will win, we will fight, and we will win.
Put the bigots in the bin.
We will fight, we will win.
Put the bigots in the bin.
We will fight and we will win.
Put the bigots in the bin.
We will fight and we will win.
Put the bigots in the bin.
We will fight and we will win.
Put the bigots in the bin.
We will fight and we will win.
Put the bigots in the bin.
We will fight and we will win.
Put the bigots in the bin.
I think it's really important what Jenny was just saying. There's a reason that no one is coming to save us, but us is a commonplace of the LGBT rights movement, of all movements against oppression. We can't rely on the people in power having a moral change of heart. We can't rely on them swooping in to save us, whether they're from the Labor Party, whether they are, people like the Democrats over in the US, when their interest is also in the scapegoating of our communities, in the scapegoating of people of colour and migrants, in the scapegoating of all of the oppressed, for the crimes that sitting at the top of it. So no one's coming to save us but us. But there's a lot of us. We have a lot of different struggles, whether it's LGBT rights, whether it's racial justice, whether it's the fight against sexism, that are all linked together, and we need to stand in solidarity with one another in fighting back and continue that independent activism. In the spirit of an institution with a long, proud history of independent activism, I want to invite up our next speaker, who is the President of the Sydney University Students' Representative Council, Angus Fisher.
Thank you, Eddie, and thanks for having me at this excellent rally today. It's amazing that such a rally can take place with such a broad amount of support, because I think that's the only way we can fight against the rising right here in Australia and globally. I'd also like to acknowledge that today we're having this rally on Gadigal land, that of the Eora Nation. This land was never ceded, and I always recognise that the Gadigal peoples were the first peoples to experience the violence and brutality of colonisation, and really all fights stem from these fights of those who want to overreach and those who want to take power and those who want to take what really isn't theirs. I think what I'm about to say is fairly obvious, but I think it needs to be heard for everyone around. It's obvious and clear that Trump and the rise of the far right has a direct effect on the globe, and in particular direct effect on Australia. If we only look at what's happened in recent days, we've seen Trump's tariffs, we've seen the impeding culture war ridden by Elon Musk being imported by the so-called trumpet of patriots here in Australia. We've seen attacks on tertiary education funding, and we've seen just an overall toxic implementation of what Trump is doing in the United States. I'll speak more to the funds and cuts to Australian education and Australian tertiary funding, because I think it's really interesting and really disgusting. For some setup, the US, for good or for not, spends $400 million a year funding Australian research, some of it against its own agenda. And what Trump has done has gone and about to cut that. And they've put out a questionnaire to universities to see what possible funding research they could cut. And the questions go something like this. Does your organization endorse the use of pronouns? Does your organization reaffirm that there are two genders? Does your organization help illegal immigrants? Does your organization support environmental justice and climate justice? I can't express the absolute absurdity of the questions that have been asked of Australian university institutions, and we have to recognise the fact that nowhere is safe, and the only way to fight back against this is make a noise and to actually make those in the powers that be know that we are not happy with what is going on. It's clear that Trump's strategy to go through and achieve all this is to limit criticism and to limit dissent. In the US, they've completely gutted all public funding for news and all public funding for broadcast. He is able to pick and choose his media gallery when he does a press conference. And obviously, when those two things don't work for him, he'll just call it fake news and move on. That's where we have to step in as a community, as grassroots individuals, to recognize the fact that if we don't have the media on our side, we have to use our collective voice and our collective leverage to actually have the real story be told. What the really scary thing is, in my opinion, is that we really could have a Trump in Australia. Obviously, Christopher Fully was mentioned in Queensland, but it's important to note how disgusting and terrible a Dutton government would be. Dutton is from the conservative faction of the LNP, a party that is obviously already right-wing, and a party that does not have the interests of LGBTQIA+ members in their notion. This is a person who refused to stand in front of a First Nations flag, for God's sakes. What are we actually dealing with? The fact is, we need to come together and actually talk to the media in person and recognize that Dutton simply is not going to work for people of the LGBTQIA+ community. In fact, it's not going to work for anyone that is not a straight, white, cis man. The key reason, I think, that these people can feel emboldened to take such awful action, to say such terrible things, is really the rise in the far right in young men. Why is this happening? Obviously because the media, and in particular social media, is completely captured by literal billionaires. Capitalism in the media obviously benefit from the insecurity of individuals. They can sell whatever product they want, and they can sell clicks and they can sell attention, and that's what they're trying to do to young men. And that is seriously hurting and being imported here in Australia with, as already been said, with Clive Palmer and as well the LNP in particular. The right wants radicalisation to their side, and what we need on our side and what we need on the left is education and radicalisation to our side to actually fight against this really, really toxic stuff that is going on. So I'll wrap up with this. How do I think is one of the ways to fight and resist and protect LGBTQI rights here in Australia? It's to call out Trump's BS, it's to call out Dutton's BS, the LNP's BS, the Labor Party's BS, whatever kind of rhetoric that is harmful to communities. It must be called out and it must be recognised. We have to sway the media in person. We have to tell them what is happening to the vulnerable in society, and we have to support the marginalised and those that are downtrodden in everything we must possibly do. I reiterate the fact that a Dutton government must not be elected, and that means that we can hold a Labor government to account. And it's important that we hold those that be to account, and so we can fight back and actually help those in society. Because a united front is the only way to fight against the rising far right. Thank you for having me today.
Trans rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. When trans rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. When trans rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. Tell me, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. Tell me, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. When trans rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. When trans rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. When trans rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. Tell me, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. Tell me, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. I think it's an important thing to raise the rise of the Andrew Tate influenced far right, the people who follow, Turning Point USA, Andrew Tate, who follow this obscene manosphere sexist environment online. And to recognize that it's not just fucked up ideas that are being disseminated online, it's not just YouTube channels and Reddit threads and people in their basements being keyboard warriors, as repulsive as that on its own might be. The far right are activists. They're an organised minority fighting to impose their rotten, bigoted politics onto the rest of society. And they're in a minority. People might have seen the chilling statistic that 25% of young men in Australia look to Andrew Tate, the sexist, the bigot, the transphobe, as a role model. The flip side of that is that there's 75% of us who think those people are fucked in the head. And so we want to turn that 75% into a force that's just as organised, just as ready to fight for our politics of inclusion, of justice, of equality, as the far right are to fight for theirs. So on that note, I want to hand over to our next speaker, who is Jaden Hall. She's a 16-year-old proud Wiradjuri trans girl and activist.
Every day, I feel the looming threat of anti-trans laws that could take away my right to gender-affirming care that for many of us are life-saving. All over the world, governments backed by millionaires have enacted anti-trans laws under the guise of protecting minors. However, these laws have led to a significant increase in suicide attempts among transgender and non-binary youth. In the US, a study by the Trevor Project found that in states with such legislation, suicide attempts among transgender and non-binary individuals, aged 13 to 17, rose up to 72% in the second year of law's enactment. These life-threatening trans laws, anti-trans laws, aren't just happening in the US, but they're happening right here at home. In January, the Queensland government banned new prescriptions of puberty blockers and HRT for minors, leaving countless trans youth without access to vital care, all while the Royal Australian College of General Practitioners reports that over 73% of transgender individuals have experienced depression. They emphasize that timely access to hormone therapies lead to a significantly reduced risk of poor mental health in transgender adults. Policies like this don't protect anyone. They put trans youth at greater risk of suicide and mental health struggles. And it's not just Queensland. Fuck off. And it's not just Queensland. Across Australia, both major parties have played a role in undermining trans rights. The Liberals use trans issues as political distraction, while Labor has supported legislation that protects anti-LGBTQ discrimination under the guise of religious freedom. These attacks on transgender lives are happening right now, and we cannot afford to ignore them. And as if to laugh in our faces, we have examples of how these contradictions play out in real life. As many of you are aware, the Prime Minister of Australia, Albo, marched in this year's Sydney Mardi Gras. Yet, let's not forget that just last year, Albo congratulated the openly transphobic, homophobic, and racist Donald Trump after he won the US general election. This shows how his words and actions don't align, and frankly, he's a piece of shit, and he is full of shit. And this is a prime example of political hypocrisy. In a similar vein, recently in my hometown of Newcastle, the Newcastle Herald published an ad from the Trumpets of Patriots Party. In bold, large letters, it read, "There are only two genders, male and female." Below that, the ad claimed, "We must stop confusing our children in schools, give them a normal and safe environment to develop in." But here's the real kicker, let them decide who they are when they become adults. The ad is harmful, sure, but I couldn't help but laugh at the sheer stupidity of that final line. They want to deny kids freedom to explore who they are, but then they say they'll let them decide later. To the Newcastle Herald, may I just add, your apology was also full of shit. You know exactly what you were doing. Far-right conservatives have always targeted most vulnerable groups because they're the easiest to oppress without resistance. Right now in the US, we're watching this unfold in real time with Donald Trump and the rest of his clown car attacking trans people and immigrant communities. Donald Trump, but history tells us one thing, it never stops there. When the bigoted gain ground, they don't stop at the most vulnerable. They keep pushing until no one is safe. That's why it's crucial that we don't just stand up for ourselves, but all oppressed people before it's too late. In the words of Martin Niemöller, first they came for the socialist, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Thank you.
I think Jaden is really right to point out the political hypocrisy of the right. And I think our transphobe in the audience over there has brought to attention something I think it's important to point out about the people who are attacking our rights right now. That they say they're doing it in the name of women. That they say they're doing it in the name of children. I think there is nothing lower or more despicable than the people who are responsible for denying 25 million women the right to abortion in the US. To claim that they are protecting women when they attack trans people. There is nothing lower than the Chris Bully government and its supporters. The government that had to ban all discussion of abortion in Queensland Parliament because they couldn't control their own fucked up anti-abortionist MPs and stop them from attacking women's rights. So they had to ban it outright. There's nothing lower than the supporters of those people claiming that they are the defenders of women's rights in this country. There's nothing lower than the people who have changed laws in Queensland to allow Indigenous children to be locked up in adult watch houses, to be denied schooling in prison, to be held in solitary, a form of torture, when they are under the age of 18, to turn around and claim that their attacks on puberty blockers, on gender-affirming care, are motivated by the desire to protect children. You are torturers of children. We are all stronger when we fight together. When trans women stand up and fight for their rights, cis women benefit as well. When trans women come under attack, it's cis women who are policed for being too strong, too tall, too manly at places like the Olympics, like the horrors that Iman Khalif, the Algerian boxer, was subject to this year. When the right get away with saying that they're the defenders of children, then they are able to push their barrow of criminalizing children who are black, children who are poor, children who don't fit their mold of what a protectable ideal child should look like. So I think we need to say, fuck off, you are hypocrites. We're the real people who are fighting for the rights of women, for the rights of children, for the rights of trans people, because all of our struggles are bound up together and you are our common enemy. So thank you, Jaden, for standing up to that and for pointing out that hypocrisy. I want to call up now our next speaker, who is Jackie Turner, the director of the Trans Justice Project, an organisation that has hosted really impressive, massive rallies all around the country to oppose the crucifixly ban on puberty blockers, to say that we're going to stand up and protect trans kids, unlike the right that only want to attack and abuse them. Please make her very welcome.
Awesome, thanks so much. It's worth noting too that a bunch of conservative organisations like the Alliance Defending Freedom gave money to TERF organisations in the US to fund their campaigns against trans people. Their agenda is about fueling the far right and the religious right so that they can use them as a prop to then later repeal Roe v. Wade. Like, these things are so connected and so obvious. We know that millions of dollars has been floated into the UK to fund organisations like the LGBT Alliance so that they can fund their anti-trans work, so that they can fuel a broader far right agenda. These organisations, these agendas are in each other's pockets. I'm not sure whether our friend is still here, but, you know, share the news, I guess. My name's Jackie Turner. I'd like to acknowledge that we're on Gadigal land today. Sovereignty was never ceded, and also with the escalation in the last few days, also extend my solidarity to the people of Palestine who are fighting back against genocide. Until Palestine is free, none of us are free. About 4 years ago, I was super burnt out. I'd quit my job. I was watching 3 or 4 horror movies a day and having these long baths. I was not in a good place. And I was also watching what was happening in the US and the UK, seeing the rise of the anti-trans groups in the UK attacking the institutions that support our community, looking at the rise of anti-trans legislation in the US, taking away young people's rights to use bathrooms that align with their genders, taking away their right to life-changing medical care. And knowing that one day this is soon going to come to Australia, and realising that the only people who are going to save us is us. Over the last few years, we have done a really incredible job of standing up to the rise of anti-trans politics in Australia. We know that most people in Australia are actually on our side. Most people in Australia support the entire LGBT community's right to live free, to be equal under the law, and to have the freedom to be themselves. This is really important, right? Not every country is like this, and we're in a really good situation. But we're also at a crossroads. We know that there's an election coming up, and whoever gets in power is going to send us on some really different directions and going to determine what the next couple of years look like for us. I know that for me, it's looking around at the moment, it's actually pretty scary, reading the news every morning and look at what, what the rise of fascism actually looks like and the collapse of democracy. I think all of us need to remember that the only cure for that kind of isolation, fear and apathy is solidarity, hope and action. The only way that we get through this stuff is together, and by refusing to hide away the parts of ourselves that are really important to us and that, are the parts of us that make us who we are and our communities who we are. We need to make sure that rather than hiding away, we're standing up and showing up for each other, that we are standing up for the folks right now who are being threatened by Dutton's proposed referendum on deporting people who stand up for Palestine. We need to make sure that we're standing up for folks, for Aboriginal people who are going through treaty negotiations at the moment and having their treaty negotiations literally wiped away like they've done in the NT. We need to stand up for folks who are being affected by the repealing of anti-discrimination laws like we're seeing in Queensland, and for trans youth who are having their healthcare stripped away in Queensland as well. We know that other places will follow this, and we have a few really big years ahead of us to make sure that these fuckers don't win and aren't able to take us backwards and force us back into the closet. These people want us to be scared. They want us to feel unstable. They want us to feel like our future is uncertain. But the truth is that we make the decision about what our future looks like. When we stand together, when we refuse to back down, when we are smart, strategic, powerful, and we work together, we have the power to change this country. A lot of us have been doing this work for a fucking long time and have been struggling really hard, and I know that I myself have been really shocked by what has happened in the last few months since Trump has got in and the effect it's having in our country. But the only way out is through. We have to make sure that we're lifting each other up and inspiring each other and making sure that this work isn't just like, horrible, draining, at times like really soul-crushing work, but actually enriches us, empowers us, and making communities for ourselves where we can actually thrive. We need to be making sure that we're actually taking each other forward, because we know that the only people who are going to fix what's happening right now is the people who are here together. So as we go into these next couple of months in the lead up to the election and what happens afterwards, I want you to have a think about what you're going to do. It's not enough to, share things online and that sort of stuff. Like, congratulations to everyone who has shown up to the rally today. It's really important that we're showing up. But we also need to be actually going out into our communities and meeting people where they're at and having these conversations. What can you do in the coming months? Are you able to volunteer on a campaign? Are you able to have conversations with your neighbours? Are you able to be mobilising and helping organise protests and rallies and direct actions that actually disrupt the status quo? Whatever you can do and however you can help, that's what you need to be doing, and we need to be encouraging the people in our circles to do the same. So I guess I want to leave you with where we're at right now with this stuff. We know that in Queensland that they have taken action to stop trans people accessing valuable healthcare, and if we don't keep standing up to those guys, that they're going to take that further and could inspire other states to do the same. We need to draw lines in the sands around these issues and make sure that we're standing up and speaking out and making it hard for them to continue business as usual. But also, we know that if a Dutton government is elected with a strong, with the support to actually be able to, further attack queer rights, that we need to be ready to take action, because they're not going to just come for gender affirming care, they're going to come for discrimination laws. They're going to make sure that the religious exemptions that currently allow teachers and students to be expelled or sacked stay in place. We need to be mobilising all across the continent to prepare not just for the game that's in front of us, but for the one that's coming too. Thanks so much for coming out today in this first step, hey?
Active resisting, it's the antidote to doom scrolling. It's the antidote to just feeling like everything is dire in the world and there's nothing you can do about it. And we're not the first people to have that insight. People have actually been saying for a long time, you need to get out on the streets and you need to fight for your rights. I wanted to go back into the archives and pull out a chant that exhorts us all to do that from the original Mardi Gras and the gay liberation movement. You just have to repeat after me. It goes, out of the closets and onto the streets.
Out of the closets and onto the streets.
Out of the bars and onto the streets.
Out of the bars and onto the streets.
Together we stand, together we fight.
Together we stand, together we fight.
We demand our equal rights.
We demand our equal rights.
Out of the closets and onto the streets.
Out of the closets and onto the streets.
Out of the bars and into the streets.
Out of the bars and into the streets.
Together we stand, together we fight.
Together we stand, together we fight.
We demand our equal rights.
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 So I'm going to hand over now to our next speaker, who is Max Pamaka. Max is a trans activist at the University of Sydney.
Well, suffice to say, Donald Trump is a massive piece of shit. He's making America a more dangerous and hostile place for transgender people, especially for trans youth. His executive orders and new laws that are being passed across the country are to bring away trans rights that have been fought so hard for in the past. Trump is attacking so-called gender ideology by barring trans girls from playing in girls' sports teams at school, and enforcing legal repercussions for school teachers who simply respect and support their students' gender transition. People are also being forced to use identity documents like passports that show their gender assigned at birth, regardless of their actual gender identity. Transgender kids in schools in dozens of US states are no longer allowed to access bathrooms that align with their gender identity. Nor are students in some states allowed to access information about gender identity or sexuality. And most seriously of all, Trump is stopping transgender youth from accessing vital, life-saving healthcare services like puberty blockers or hormone therapy. Trump and his transphobia is not a coincidence or an aberration of capitalism. It is an inevitable product of it. Capitalism is a violent, oppressive system that breeds animals like Donald Trump and Nazi freaks like Elon Musk. Time and time again, our rights as human beings have come under attack by this system. And time again, people have risen up and fought back. Today is that time. We can't sit and wait for our rights to be granted from above by supposed allies like the Labour Party, who refuse to condemn right-wing monsters like Trump and Musk, and who refuse to condemn the Queensland Liberals for their transphobic bills. Don't forget their long history of opposing marriage equality. Instead, the only way to win is when we are active. It is when we go out there and fight for our rights. One of the greatest moments of trans and queer defiance, the Stonewall riots, were exactly that, riots. When people had had enough of having to hide in the shadows and were sick of being brutally attacked by the police and the state, they fought back and said, we're not going to run away, we're not going to hide anymore, we're going to stand our ground. The other day, my friend asked me, isn't it really depressing being an activist, just seeing things get just worse and worse? And I was like, no, actually. I don't get sad when I see these things. I get angry. I get furious. Seeing these attacks in the US and here in Australia as well only motivates me to fight back even more, as it has motivated all of you to come out here today. Donald Trump shows that villains never rest, that the sick system of capitalism never rests. So neither will we. With each attack that is made, we will fight back, we will stand up and say, fuck Donald Trump!
I think we can make that one a chant. Fuck Donald Trump!
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 Fuck Elon Musk!
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 And fuck Donald Trump!
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 It's really all that needs to be said. I think we can all get behind that sentiment. But on that note, I want to bring up our final speaker of the rally today, who's Lily Campbell. Lily's an activist over at the University of Technology, Sydney. She's been involved in the campaign for LGBT rights for a long while now, but she's also an activist across a variety of other issues. You might have seen her more recently hopping into a kayak in order to try and block the passage of coal ships out of the, country's biggest coal port in Newcastle with Rising Tide Australia. So someone to take us home from the end of this rally.
I'll get you all in kayaks soon. When trans rights are under attack, what do we do? When trans rights are under attack, what do we do? When trans rights are under attack, what do we do? Hey, what do we do? Hey, what do we do? Woo, thanks guys. Well, I feel like just being at this rally for the past hour has proven wrong all of the people who, when I was promoting this rally, said, oh, what's the point of protesting against Donald Trump in Australia? There's a whole bunch of bigots clearly here in Sydney who are feeling pretty emboldened right now to yell at us when we have protests for trans rights on the street. And the woman before who was attacking us saying, what about women, what about women, just reminded me so much of Donald Trump and his comments about protecting women, even if they don't want to be protected. Pretty ominous words, I think. Also, do people remember this guy, Clive Palmer? He's been a little bit back in the news recently. He's had a couple of rebrands over the years. I remember him from a few years ago from the huge yellow banners that popped up everywhere with the big thumbs up. And now he wants to make Australia great again. Pretty frightening. He's also called his party the Trump pet of patriots. Shocking, but also kind of aptly named in some respects. I think he wants to trumpet all over our rights and boost his own voice as loud as possible over the voices of the majority. So people probably would have seen he's put out all of these ads in the mainstream newspapers saying that there are only two genders, male and female. What's perhaps even more shameful is that these newspapers originally felt a bit bad about the fact that they put Clive Palmer on the front of their newspapers. They had to think about it for a little while, and then they decided, oh, actually, we don't want to attack Clive Palmer's freedom of speech. We should keep that ad up there for fear of, hurting his feelings or something. I think tells you a lot about freedom of speech in general as a concept. If you're a billionaire like Musk or Trump or Clive Palmer, the kind of Australian drongo-eyed Trump, I guess in our case, you've got a lot of freedom of speech because you buy your way onto all of the mainstream newspapers with your millions and millions of dollars. We don't have that kind of trumpet or megaphone. We've just got literal megaphones that we can use on the street to mobilize as many people as we possibly can around it. We don't have money, but we have feet and we have voices, and we've got to try and push back against these people wherever they raise their heads. And that's our right to freedom of speech. And we've got to be even louder and even more obnoxious and in their face than they are if it is that we're going to be able to successfully counter them. I think that's really important. I think as well it's important to note that there's been a pretty deathly silence from the mainstream of Australian politics about the rebrand and resurrection of Clive Palmer recently. After he failed to unite with notorious bigot Pauline Hanson, he's set up this project. But there's nothing from Albanese, nothing from any of the rest of the left or any of these politicians trying to condemn this guy, call him out. Despite the fact that we know, as lots of people have said, 9 out of 10 Australians think that trans people have the right to live in freedom and peace and live in joy. We need more people who are willing to stand up because we can't rely on the politicians. We can't rely on these corporations either. You see Meta and Google decided to pull out of Mardi Gras at the last minute because they're more interested in bowing before the feet of their overlords Musk and Trump. So nobody's going to stand for us but us. Well done everyone for coming out. Keep coming out to CARA events. It's all the more important now than ever that we take a stand for trans rights, take a stand for all of the oppressed, because all of our struggles are tied together. Fuck Donald Trump!
Now we're going to march and get our message out to the rest of Newtown, down the footpath over to Camperdown Park, and let the world know what we're standing up for today. When trans attack, what do we do? When trans rights are what do we do? When trans rights are under attack, what do we do? Tell me what do we do? Tell me what do we do? When trans rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. When trans rights
All right, I'll leave it at that. They're going to march down the road to a park on the footpath, so that's enough march. All right, there's another one done. Interesting, interesting concepts and speeches. There was a lady yelling, but I didn't really go and see her. I had to stick where I was because I was kind of boxed in a bit. But anyway, that's it for another one, and we will be at the next one, whatever it may be. But we got here a few haven't gone. Anyway.